Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Now today I've got two very special guests. I'm delighted to be joined by Jack and Harry from the Women's Football Chat. And today we're going to be chatting a bit about women's football. With the Euros coming up, there's definitely a lot to talk about. But first of all, thank you both for joining me today. I do really appreciate it. How are you both doing?
Doing well, doing well. I don't know about you, Harry.
I'm doing all right. Bit warm, but all good.
Good. I'm glad you're good. And as we mentioned off air, the Euros this summer is going to be massive. Obviously, it'd be great if we could win it again, but with our group, it's going to be so tough. And I wanted to get your thoughts as well because we did see the squad announcement yesterday, and I know maybe a few players missed out that we might have been a little bit surprised about. Obviously, Emily Bright as well. Her not being there as well. What did you make of it? Do you feel confident now looking at that team that we could go on and win it?
I think we've still got a team that can go and win the Euros. I think the problem for me comes in the lack of leadership, but I think there's still enough leaders on the field to make up for the lack of Earps and for Bright. What I will say is I think we lack cover in midfield. And with Stanway coming back from a pretty major injury, she's only played for England in the last 6 months. So that's a concern for me. And the fact we don't have any cover in midfield for Kira Walsh. We've got a load of attacking midfielders, but I'm really surprised to see no Missy Bokerns come. I
Yeah.
think that would have been an obvious one for me.
Yeah. What about you? Because I think as well, like I think with Nikita Paris, I wasn't surprised too much, but I also think that it would have been great to have her experience in the team.
Yeah, I think for me picking Agumang over Paris was a almost changing of the guard. I think that in previous tournaments, and to be fair, I would have loved to see Nikita Paris called up, but clearly Wiegman backs Michelle Agumang to turn
Yeah.
up and to provide for England. Obviously, it shouldn't matter too much as she'll play that third choice striker role behind Russo and Beaver Jones. But I think it's a big tournament for her because
Yeah.
if we need a goal and we look to that bench, then she's going to have to provide. She did it well it was against Belgium. Yeah, Belgium in the loss, but scored. That was a brilliant goal. But if she can do that in the Euros, then I think she'll prove that it was the right decision to call her up.
I do think she gives something different to what we have, a different profile. I
Yeah.
think with Paris, it's very similar to Beaver Jones, very versatile, and that's helpful. But I think with Aguimang, it's a completely different profile to what we have. Someone that's a lot more physical. I think probably the best ball striker out of the three, though Russo has become a lot better with that this season. I think her range of finishes
Yeah.
has grown this year. But I think Aguimang's a really powerful player, and that's important to have in this England side. Someone who can go up there for the last 10 minutes and just hold the ball up. I think that could be really useful if we're thinking those knockout games, if we're thinking the Wales game as well, if you want a bit of physicality in there.
Yeah.
I think Aguimang's a really nice option that perhaps you don't get from Paris. I think with Paris, very experienced player, and that is helpful, but she doesn't really offer a different profile to Beaver Jones, doesn't really offer a different profile
Yeah.
to Kelly, who I imagine will be rotation players. So, yeah, I think in that regard, I understand it. I know Nikita put out a message on Instagram. She was rather disappointed, but that's understandable.
Yeah.
But if we're thinking from a England squad point of view, having Aguimang, who's a slightly different profile in there, I think that's helpful.
Yeah, I was like shocked as well. I mean, obviously I'm an Arsenal fan, and I love watching her as well on loan this season, and she's been amazing. But as well, she's so young; she's only 19, and I thought to myself, maybe is it too soon for her? Because I know when Serena's been talking about her, she said that how good she is, but there are sort of weaknesses in her game. So I was surprised. Obviously, I'm really happy, but I was a bit surprised, as you mentioned, because the midfield does look a little bit light, and I know we have players like Aaliyah Williamson who can play in midfield, but I think it is a bit of a risk as well. I know there's been a lot going on with the England team recently. I know we've seen like Frank Kirby retiring. Did you ever expect Frank Kirby to really go to this tournament? Because I think she's a player that obviously brings you something different in the team, but she does have a lot of injuries, and I can understand a bit where Serena might come from because she's a great player, and I think it's a tough decision to make as the manager to bring in these players. But I think with Frank Kirby, she does have that problem where she does get injured quite a lot.
Yeah, Kirby's definitely injury prone. What I will say though is I think she's a difference maker. She turns up in those big moments, and I think if you look at this England squad, it's full of very good players, but in terms of a player who can have that moment, I think you're only really looking at Lauren James, who we're not
Yeah,
expecting to be fit for the start of the tournament. So that would concern me slightly. I think as much as Kirby may not be the greatest player now, I think she's an immensely talented footballer, and I think someone who could have a moment like that. So in that regard, it's a shame not to see it. I'd actually say Toon's also someone we could see a big moment
yeah,
from. We've seen her turn up in big moments like the FA Cup final.
yeah,
So I think we have got players that can do it, but I think Kirby's one that we could lack in that regard. When you think about other nations, you think of Spain, they've got about 15 who can do that, but they've got a plethora of options for us. I don't think we have quite as many big game changers, but I
yeah,
do understand why she's not been involved. You look at the depth of quality in attacking midfield. Does she get in over Park? Does she get in over Toon? Does she get in over Clinton? Probably not. So in that
yeah.
regard, in that, she's not really getting minutes. So I can understand why she's not involved in this squad. I don't know how you feel, Harry.
I think it's a difficult one because I think it's very easy to forget how good and how influential she was in the Euros winning 22. I thought she was absolutely brilliant. And again, people will mention the standout players, the link up between Russo and Toon and how strong we were defensively. But Fran Kirby played a massive part in that Euros winning side. So to not have her in, it's a hard one to see. I think personally, great player.
I love Frank Kirby.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely gutted not to see her come to this tournament. I love Frank Kirby.
But I do think, as you say, we've got Toon now, who's clearly shown she can step up on the big stage. Clinton can do the same. Park can do the same. And you don't want to be taking too many attacking midfielders because they just won't get used. But I think it was good the way they dealt with it. I think it was Wiegman was honest with Kirby, and then Fran chose to retire, which I think was the right way to go about it. But yeah, it's disappointing. But I think England have got enough players now that can make a difference that it shouldn't hurt our chances too much.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's a tough one to make as well, and especially you look in midfield, and as you mentioned with like Toon, we have these players that are really going to really change the game, and obviously someone like Grace Clinton who hasn't always had a lot of opportunities. I think it's great to see other players like her, Jess Park, to come in and have these opportunities in the Euros, and I think it's a tough one for Fran, but I think sometimes, football does move on. Other players get these opportunities, but obviously, I'm with you. I'm gutted it wasn't meant to be this time. But obviously, as you mentioned, the last Euro, she was amazing, and I think every single player was so important for why we won. So I definitely think this Euros will be a little bit different. But would you guys say overall that you're happy with the Euro squad that Serena picked? Do you think that? I know she's been under a lot of criticism recently about, some players retiring, the Millie Bright situation, which I don't think is her fault at all. But with Serena, do you still feel as well that she still has it in her to take us to the next level? I mean, she's got us to a World Cup final, she's won the Euros with us, and I think that for me, I think that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I hope so. I think my biggest criticism of Serena coming into this tournament is her mismanagement of players in the build-up. Because I'm looking at the England squad now, and we've got 5 centre backs in the squad, and I know that we're looking at using Carter as a fullback and Laetitia as a fullback. But personally, I think Laetitia is one of our best centre halves, and we've not seen her play. We've not even seen her used at right back, and we don't have a natural fullback replacement for either Charles or Bronze. So if either of them gets injured, we're looking at Carter starting at fullback, which isn't the worst thing, but I think we've seen from Jess Carter that she can't cut it at this level anymore. She can't get up and down. She's okay if she's playing in a back three, but I think I would be concerned about her at this level. What I don't understand is why players like Poppy Pattinson haven't been given a chance. That for me is a really bizarre one. But yeah, I think you look at this England squad, it's fairly well balanced. But yeah, my only concern would be those fullbacks.
Yeah, I agree. I think, as you mentioned, we are a little bit light in a few areas because I think if we ever have any injuries, we are in big trouble, really. I think obviously it's different to last time, and I think it's going to be a different type of tournament, as you mentioned as well. So many of the teams will have improved, and it's going to be really tough. With the last Euros, we know that it really changed women's football. It really changed it in England as well, and we've really seen for so many of the teams in the WSL or in different leagues that the support is really growing. Do you expect this to have the same sort of impact this time around? Obviously, even if we didn't win it, do you still think that the support for women's football will continue to grow?
I hope so. I think
Yeah.
that it is another really good opportunity. As you say, we had the Euros in 22 and then we had the World Cup in 2023. And those back-to-back years were absolutely massive because people got on board. And I think that this year's another big opportunity when you have a side that, when England have a side that are able to compete and will look to be at the very sharp end of the tournament. I think it's a huge opportunity for the game to grow, for people to get involved, and international tournaments are always a great place as well for players to have their big moment and to have their, get a big move somewhere or wherever it may be. In 2022, it was Russo and Toon. That was their tournament where they absolutely shone, and they became, they're they're everyone's favourite players. They're two of the most well-known players in women's football. So it's another really good opportunity for players to get their name out there and have a big tournament, but B, if England get a good run, if we can get out of the groups and get towards that final and semi-final, I think we will build that togetherness as a nation where everyone's back on board and everyone wants to believes that they can go and win it. I think that international tournaments and international football is a massive thing when it comes to growing the game.
I think it'll be slightly different because we're not hosting this year, so I think that will make a difference. Because a large part of the feel-good factor is the fact it was in England. We won it at Wembley. A lot of people were able to go along and watch games. But I think the impact it has will be contingent on England's success. If England go and win the tournament again, it will have a greater impact than if we get knocked out of the group stage, naturally, because people will be following it for longer. So hopefully England can go far because that will help grow the game. But I think it'll also have a similar impact in other countries as well, not just in England. We saw at the last World Cup, Japan were phenomenal, and that has seen a huge rise in Japanese in the popularity of women's football in Japan. So hopefully we see that similar sort of thing for other nations. We've got a lot of smaller nations going to this Euros. I think particularly the host, Switzerland. I think it's a huge opportunity to grow the sport there. So yeah, I think it's an opportunity for growth. For England, it's now just contingent on success. Really, I think the more success that the women's team have, while the men's team relatively successful period, but haven't actually won anything, I think that's important. There will be people backing the Lionesses this summer. So I think in terms of getting those attendances up again, because what we saw was after two major tournaments, attendances took a huge spike, but we actually saw them drop off this year. And that for me is a slight concern. But hopefully, if England perform well this summer, we will see attendances at games back up again.
Yeah, that's something I've noticed as well. I mean, I think with the Arsenal women's team, I think we've been quite good at maintaining the attendances, but I think as well, I mean, obviously 20,000 is a lot, and I'm not taking that away, but I think it would be great as well. I look at other games, Chelsea when they're in the Champions League. I think they could get higher. It would be nice for them to get higher attendances. Same with other teams, and also I've always felt, other teams in the WSL that might be lower down in the league, it would be great to see them get more attendances, and not just with the WSL. I think the Championship, I think that it would be great to see that happen. How do you guys feel like we in women's football we can get more attendances? Do you think it's about winning things, maybe people promoting things online? Because I think for me as an Arsenal fan, I think it's great if I see, Saka or an Arsenal men player post something to sort of encourage maybe people to watch out the women's stuff.
Yeah, I think Arsenal really are the golden standard, though. I mean, they had an average attendance of 28,000 last season. The next closest was Chelsea at 9,000. That's night and day difference. And Arsenal actually had a drop off in attendance last season. It was 30,000 the season before. But I mean, going to 30,000, 28,000, it's fairly negligible. It's still an impressive turnout. I think with Arsenal, it's a culmination of factors. The fact that they were at the forefront of women's football in the mid-2000s when it started to become more popular in England. I think the fact that they had a huge period of sustained success. And I also think the way that Arsenal as a whole football club approach women's football is different to how other teams. There's a much more one club mentality about it. So I think it is a gradual process based off of that. I think when you look at Chelsea's success, it's very good, but I think that won't be recognised until about 20 years' time, because the people watching today need to grow up and have kids, and then suddenly that doubles.
Yeah.
So I think it's that sort of thing where you look at the Arsenal fans now, and it's a lot of fans who've then gone on, had children, got their children into the game, and then that's grown that fan base. I think it's that same sort of thing or it's just a natural growth period. What people went to watch Arsenal mid 2000s because they were the best women's team, and I think that will start to happen for Chelsea now. But that will only then be realised as that continues over time. So I think it's a gradual process. I think we'll see it across the WSL. Hopefully, 50% of the WSL did actually have an increase in attendances this year. 50% then dropped. So we are seeing it in different games and stuff like that. So hopefully we'll see attendances go back up after the Euros this summer. But yeah, it's a difficult problem. There's, again, so many different factors to it. You can't force people to watch a sport. But I think as attitudes change towards women's game, hopefully we'll naturally see attendances rise.
I think it's I think we are getting there in terms of, as you mentioned, I think Arsenal do it well with the men's side. They're very good at promoting the women's side, and there's a lot of collaboration there. I think what Aston Villa are doing as well with their season tickets are brilliant. How you can earn points for the men's games by going to the women's games. That's a great way to get people watching, both teams. And I think that more clubs need to look at that, and they need to replicate that. It'd be nice to see more sides get into the bigger grounds rather than playing at the smaller ones. But I mean, Everton, the most recent side, obviously they're moving into Goodison. That's another great example of a way to mix the fan bases and to grow the game. But yeah, it is a slow process. It will take time. But things like the Euros and World Cups, they can boost that process a little bit. If you do get a big surge, hopefully, and it'd be nice to see a knock-on effect. Have a good year. England have a good Euros. Say they go out and win it, everyone gets back on a high, and then suddenly we've got more people coming to watch the domestic season, and I think that would be really promising to see that happen.
And I also think the league itself needs to sort of understand its audience a bit more, because it feels to me there's a huge culture clash at the moment between trying to attract day trippers and then trying to attract a regular audience. And I think the problem is that there is this clash in what different women's football fans want. And until they sort of recognise what direction they want to send the league in, it's a bit of mixed messaging. And so I hope we can see Nikki Doucette and the WPLL, or whatever they've renamed to now, hopefully we can see them start to understand the audience. Because actually in the UK, a higher percentage of men watch women's sports than women. And I think, again, that is something that will change over time with how the culture changes. But I think right here and now, they need to recognise that, because they are gearing women's football more towards a sort of one day off experience, a one-off experience, a sort of big festival type atmosphere, rather than something where you're there for the team, you're there to go and be committed every week. So I do think we need to see a shift there to grow that sort of regular, that die-hard attendance.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, because there is different type of fans. I mean, I think, obviously Arsenal are quite lucky to play at the Emirates, but at the other ground that we play at, I mean, you do sort of see, like you said, you might see families on their day out. You'll see different type of people. And I think it's just interesting, as you mentioned, with the audience, how, it'd be nice to see a lot of regular people that are really invested. And I think it is honestly just crazy, with the Euros last time, how that did change the game. And as you mentioned, it would be amazing if, even if we don't win it this year, there might be players that maybe England or whoever you're watching that you might really want to follow their sort of career. Because I think Lauren James in that World Cup was amazing. And I think that with the World Cup, I felt as though that it would, we had quite a few players out. Leah Williamson obviously wasn't there as well. We had a lot of injuries, and I think it was nice to see sort of players, individuals, and I think fans might think, I like Lauren James, so I might watch her at Chelsea. And I think these are things that would be great to see. And I think it's always great to see teams get, like Missy Kearns. It would, like I said before, would have been great for her to go to the Euros, because I think that she's worked really hard all season. I mean, at Liverpool, she was great as well. And it's really nice. And I hope we get to see more of these players from maybe not smaller clubs, but other clubs, in the league, get these opportunities. So, yeah, it's honestly been really good to chat with both of you today. I want you guys to just tell me a bit about your channel as well, so people can obviously go and check it out as well.
Well, we're the Women's Football Chat, so you can come along. We do live watch-alongs. In fact, for the Euros, we're doing a live watch-along for every single match. We're doing previews of every single team. So if you're interested in how the sides are going to set up tactically, then go ahead and check those out. In fact, we've just finished, we're partway through our WSL season reviews. We review every single club. So we're constantly posting videos, so go and check those out. We usually post Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but at the moment we've got videos out every day. So if you're looking for women's football content to check out, that's perhaps a little bit more analytical, a bit more tactical, we've got some of that. But yeah, there's a range of content on our channel, and obviously those live watch-alongs as well.
I love that. I think it's great that you both do that, and I think it's nice now that we are seeing more people speak about women's football, because I know some channels might speak about the men's, and I think it's great that you guys are doing that. And I will link your channel as well, so please do check it out. And to those that are watching this, I hope you have enjoyed this video. Let me know as well in the comments how you're feeling about the Euros. If England can win it again, that would be great. But yeah, thank you all for watching it. We'll be watching this back. And thank you both for coming on today. It's been really good. And yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful day.